Hi, welcome. I'm Morris Ratner. I'm the academic dean. Thank you all for coming, and I want to encourage you to continue to grab food. Please help yourselves. While everyone is getting settled, I thought I'd make a few introductory remarks. This is the launch of our new speaker series, Diversity in Legal Thought and Practice. This event is organized by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Working Group. Chancellor and Dean David Fagman established the working group at the end of last year. It includes a mix of faculty and students and staff, including UC Hastings students Jessica Valadez, Victoria Ayeni, Bob Wu, Ruby Zapian, and Alex Binsfeld-Debus. Assistant Dean of Students Grace Hum, LEOP Director and Diversity and Inclusion Advisor Elizabeth McGriff, Interim GC Leo Martinez, who is being rotated off and will soon be replaced because he's retired, unfortunately. Our Title IX coordinator, Andrea Bing, and professors Ascanio Piamelli, Jamie Dolcus of Work-Life Law, David Levine, and Emily Murphy, and I serve as the ex officio chair of the working group. We want to thank Dean Fagman for organizing this working group and launching and resourcing this opportunity for us to achieve the group's mission, which is to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion, and cultural competence to attract, retain, and support diverse community members, foster an environment that promotes excellence in learning, and enrich the college environment. We are delighted to have started on this effort, and this is part of the work of the working group. Our co-sponsors today are LEOP, our Legal Education Opportunity Program, the Racial Justice Center with Faculty Director Shauna Marshall, who unfortunately is sick and couldn't make it today, but sends her regards to all of us, and LexLab, which with the overlap with legal technology, where our speaker today has made a home. I want to especially thank Faculty Events Manager Roz Foy and Academic Dean Fellow Andy Carr for their help making today possible. And so now I'll introduce our inaugural speaker of the speaker series. Adelmise Warner is a 2001 graduate of UC Hastings and a proud LEOP alumna. She had a really interesting path to a legal career, about which she's going to tell us a little bit today, and now serves as Global Head of Diversity and Inclusion at SiriusXM Pandora. In that role, she is accountable for developing and implementing diversity and inclusion strategies, including the hiring, retention, development, and advancement of underrepresented talent, particularly women and people of color. She leads a diverse team that is responsible for developing enterprise-wide programs and policies, cultivating internal and external partnerships, and promoting an inclusive work environment. Ms. Warner serves on the board of Women's Audio Mission, a San Francisco nonprofit that trains underrepresented women and girls in the recording arts and music production. She's also on the board of the National Employment Law Council, an organization committed to the professional development and advancement of attorneys of color. She is a fellow of the 2019 Xi Jinping China Eisenhower Fellowship Program. Without further ado, Adelmise Warner.
Thank you. This is on. Sorry, will you hold this for me, please? Okay. Clicker's gone. Okay. Right. All right. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think this is on. You can hear me okay? Yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to sit here and say my remarks, and then we're going to have Q&A. I'll move around, so I'm not going to stand behind the podium. It's so amazing to see so many faces. And I was telling somebody earlier, it feels like a reunion coming home. So I'm going to try to do this without getting too emotional, because Hastings really has such a special place in my heart. And I am so incredibly honored and proud to be here today, to be kicking off the speaker series. And so I just want to let you know just right off the bat how really happy I am and good to be home. So thank you for having me here. First of all, I want to, just by show of hands, how many of you here are current students? All right. Alumni? Awesome, awesome. And we have faculty and staff. I know there are lots of staff and faculty. Great. Excellent. Community members or just friends of Hastings. Okay, well, you all are friends of Hastings and family members. So I want to say welcome. And I want to start with some thank yous to a few folks. Hastings has given me so much, and I can't even begin really to think about how to repay this community for what I've been given. Professionally, I would not be where I am today without Hastings. I want to thank every member of the faculty and staff here for giving me one of the greatest gifts, the gift of an incredible high caliber education. What you've heard that Dean Morris mentioned earlier, it's not just pure luck. Where I am today, it's not because somehow I'm special. It's because this community invested in me, believed in me, and gave me the opportunity to learn, grow, and go out in the world to thrive. So for that, I am incredibly grateful to all the professors, faculty, staff, everyone here who has touched my life and who, believe it or not, continue to touch my life, even though it's been years since I graduated. I also want to thank the career services staff, some of whom are here today. Thank you for holding my hand through every step of the way during the interview process as a 1L, 2L. Going to on-campus interviews was not easy, very challenging, but you walked me through the process. You gave me the confidence to go through the interviews and do what you teach your students to do best and thrive in that environment. I also want to thank you for helping me get a job after graduation. I know it's not something every student who graduates from law school today has the opportunity to do, but I know you work really hard to make that happen. I also want to say a special thank you to the LEOP community, the Legal Education Opportunity Program. In my heart, I can tell you I would not have graduated Hastings. I would not have passed the California bar exam on the very first time I tried if it weren't for LEOP. When I got admitted into this school, it was nerve-wracking. The idea of trying to be in this community of incredibly smart, challenging, engaging students. And later on, you'll hear a little bit about my own personal journey and my own background. And to walk through the doors of Hastings and have literally arms around me, the LEOP community saying, you belong here. We are here for you. We will make sure you come out thriving, succeeding, and really being the best that you can be. And so for that, I am grateful. And I am grateful for all the LEOP faculty and staff who are continuing to do what they do to make sure the generations that came after me are still able to succeed in this school and go out in the world and succeed. For the alumni who are here, I want to say thank you, especially those of you who are out there reaching back to the Hastings community and giving back. I know it's really hard when you are busy working day to day, and if you have a family, you have the challenges of family life, children. I have 3 incredible children, blessed every day. Life gets really hard, but for those of you who think and reach back and say, I want to help support a student here, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's talking to a student about the challenges that they're facing during the day at school, or whether it's a student who didn't think they would actually make it through law school, giving them an internship, giving them a job afterwards, extending your network to them. I want to say thank you. And for those of you who perhaps haven't had a chance to do some of that, there is still time, and a call to action to every one of you is to reach back and think about how you can give back to this community to help support the students who are here and who need you. I know Professor Shauna Marshall cannot be here. I wanted to say a special thank you to her. There are people in this life who touch your life in a very special way. People who really impact you beyond just the times you spend with them and Shauna is one of them. I know you are healing, you're not feeling well from wherever you are right now. If you're listening to this, know that you have a special place in my heart as well, and I thank you for that. To my fellow classmates, class of 2001, section 3, I just want to say thank you. Yep, I don't think any of you are here, but I want to say, professors, yes. I just want to say thank you for really helping each other be better students, but more importantly, better human beings. We started out in the school in '98 in the trailers when we were doing construction. Yep. But we didn't let that distract us from reaching for the stars. And I am grateful for the 3 years that I spent here and knowing many of you. And some of you I still to this day continue to call friends. And so I just want to say thank you for that. Dean Morris, thank you for inviting me to be here and kicking off the speaker series. It's an incredible honor, and I want to say thank you to you and to Roz as well for helping me talk through before I got here this morning. Now that I've gotten the thank yous out of the way, I want to share with you a little bit about my personal journey. And the hope of this is to really inspire some of you. If you are a student, inspire you to know that no matter how challenging things get here, don't give up. You can do it. If I've been able to walk through the doors of Hastings and walk out a graduate, proud graduate of Hastings, every single one of you can do that. I grew up in Haiti, and I grew up as the oldest of 5 children in a little village in the mountains of Haiti, about 30 miles from the nearest city. And when we lived in Haiti, and some of you, maybe you visited there, and I know the school has some relationships where you go visit there, and perhaps you have, and I know there's another Haitian in the house here today. So, yes. My mother is the one of 5 children. She is completely illiterate. My mother has never gone to school. She does not know how to read or write. She has a brother, and the rest of her siblings are girls, or women, were girls. And the brother went to school. The girls never went to school. That was the norm in Haiti, right? The boys got an education. The girls, the expectation was that you would get married, have children, take care of the household. You didn't really need an education. But my mom wanted something different for me, something better for me. She pushed me really hard to go to school. She sacrificed a lot for me to be able to get an education. And I am so thankful for that, because I wouldn't be here today if she didn't say, I wanted to break that mold. I wanted to break that status quo and make sure my daughter, as the firstborn, had an education. My father is one of 3 children. He has the education basically equivalent to a 3rd grader. But he self-educated himself. He took classes, he learned how to read or write, and he moved to the US when I was only 7 years old. I didn't see him until I was 16, when I got reunited with him and I moved to the US. I moved to the United States when I was 16 years old, moved to San Diego. Imagine being a young girl, 16, walked onto the tarmac of an airport, Pan Am airplane, was flying to San Diego alone. My father was on the other end in San Diego waiting for me. I couldn't understand the pilots, I couldn't understand the flight attendants, I couldn't understand anybody who was talking to me. They were talking English. I walked in San Diego, and there was my dad. After about 10 years or so, I hadn't seen him. He welcomed me home. A couple weeks later, I was enrolled in a high school in San Diego. If any of you have lived in San Diego, or really anywhere in California, knowing a 16-year-old walk into a classroom where you are taking classes with students who had lived here their entire lives, who spoke English, and for me, I did not speak any English. The expectation was that I was going to go to the same classroom, take the same classes with them, learn the same things as they were. How do I do that? Very challenging. I took English as a second language classes to supplement my learning. I every day had a dictionary in my hands of French, English, or Creole. I listened to Beatles songs. So you see there's a parallel. Now that I'm at Pandora, one of the most amazing, see, I told you, come full circle, right? One of the most amazing companies about music that is so universal to everyone, no matter what language you speak or where you come from. Music is there for you. But Beatles songs, very simple lyrics. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Very simple. I would listen to the lyrics. I would look at a dictionary, say, what does the word mean? That's how I would learn English. 3 years later, I graduated at the top of my class with honors. Some would say, well, wow, how'd you do that? Motivation. There was a drive within me that says, it's not really where you come from that dictates where you're going. If you can work a little hard, you have somebody who believes in you, you'll make it. I tried every day. But, and this goes to why we're here today, I had a counselor who didn't believe I could make it. The counselor said, you should probably go to a 2-year college or take some vocational classes. Universities really wouldn't work for you because, one, you don't really speak English very well. Two, your parents can't afford it. My mother was a housekeeper in hotels. My father was a janitor and a dishwasher, making minimum wage. 4-year universities, out of reach. What I did, I said, you know what? Where there is a well, there's a way. I went to the local library, asked the librarians to help me with applications, fill them out, applied to every school that I could. I got into every school that I applied to, and there were many, except for Stanford. I was on the waiting list, but that's okay. I ended up at UC Berkeley. Go Bears. Cal admitted me, and I went there. While at UC Berkeley, I ended up having the amazing opportunity to do an internship in Washington, D.C. Berkeley has this program called Cal in the Capital, where you go to Washington, D.C. and do internships. And my junior year, I was blessed with that opportunity to do that internship at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, which really was the beginning of the bug, if you will, in me to do employment law work, and to do the work that I'm doing today. I spent that summer working as an intern, learning about discrimination, unfairness, lack of equity, harassment, the challenges that a lot of people in the workplace face because of their color, their race, their gender, sometimes based on where they're from, sometimes because the language they speak, because of the fear that people have about others not belonging. Well, you don't belong here because you don't speak like us. You don't belong here because you don't look like us. I was able to kind of learn some of that during that summer. After I graduated from Berkeley, I applied to law schools. And again, Hastings was the school that says, we have a place for you here. Hastings opened up the doors to so many opportunities and admitted me here as a student through the Legal Education Opportunity Program. And I started here at Hastings. For me, what it means is, again, people may not believe you can make it because they think if you have limitations, you'll let those stop you. But Hastings said, no, there was something about your background. There was something about what you've learned, how you grew up, your experiences, the challenges you faced, that we believe can add value to this community. We believe can add value to the broader community. We wanted that diversity of thought, that diversity of experiences, that diversity of people. Wherever you come from, this is the door for you. And they opened it. To borrow a quote from Renee Myers, who is a VP of Inclusion Strategy at Netflix, she says, there we go. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. How many of you have heard that before? Yep. We use it a lot at work. when we are talking to our leaders about bringing in diversity into the workplace. If you have a team that looks all the same, guess what? Your product is not going to be innovative. Your product is not going to reflect the community that's out there. Your audience, and for us as a music entertainment tech company, our audience really varies. So it's about bringing people in that are different. And for me, Hastings showed me that. And today in my world and my work and what I do, I want to make sure that I reflect sort of the diversity of people around you, the different experiences that really shape who we are. And so one of the things that I am grateful for at Hastings is the fact that the professors, the faculties, those who were reviewing my application said, yes, you may not have gotten the highest score on the LSAT, and I didn't. The LSAT was incredibly hard. Taking it just a few years after I started learning English, I was not the top of that score, but they looked past that. Hastings said, I want you here because having different people, different backgrounds is impactful to the community. And I joined this community in 1998. But the second part of this quote is inclusion. So there are schools and there are companies that just, they invite people in. They admit them, they recruit them. And at Hastings, you could say, well, yeah, welcome Adelmise to the Hastings community. Now figure it out. You'll be fine. But what Leop and this school and the staff did was creating a space for me to feel included. Unlike when I walked into the classroom in 1990 in San Diego, where I felt like I was literally plopped from one planet to another. I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't feel that way when I walked here because there were so many ways and opportunities that I took advantage of that were given to me that helped me feel included and part of this community. One of them is obviously with the moot court competition. I have a picture here that I want to show you. I was reminiscing in preparation for this and looking back at all the incredible years and days that I had here. One of the things that I have so many fond memories of is moot court. I competed in moot court competitions. I was in Wagner labor law moot court. I think today Tony's here. They are competing today, I understand. Good luck to all of you. This picture is with me and my fellow team members and coach. I just wanted to show you that because when I looked at that, I showed them this picture to my children yesterday. And they're like, is that you, Mom? And so that's me. But, all joking aside, that really resembles for me the experience. So think about it again, my limited English. The fact that I was like, well, how would you even succeed in law school and being able to compete in moot court? And we were champions. We won. I was going to forget that, but not say that. But Tony reminded me. So, but that really, that was one of the experiences that I enjoyed that helped me feel included. I also participated in civil justice clinic, beer on the beach. I don't know if you still have that. Okay. Yes, I enjoyed those. Yep. And I also, with BALSA, the Black Law Students Association, lots of activities that was helping me feel a sense of community. That's the second half of that quote, inclusion. So something for you, even if you are a student here, a faculty, the staff, find a student who may be coming from somewhere who probably feels like, well, how do I make sure that I'm part of this community? Law schools can have a reputation for being very, very challenging and not a place where it's warm and fuzzy, everybody's stressed out. But, I know when I was here, yeah, we worked really hard, but there was also always someone around who lended a smile, who said, it's okay. Beer on the beach, you can just let your hair down and have a beer and just laugh with your classmates. So continue to do that because I can tell you it has an impact on the students when they leave here. After I graduated from Hastings, I went on to take on a job at Heller Ehrman in the Silicon Valley. Heller Ehrman's no longer in existence. It's a law firm that unfortunately went by the wayside a few years ago. But that was the first time I had an opportunity to be an employment lawyer at a law firm really high tech, lots of great clients, incredible work, one of the top firms. Again, because of Hastings and the folks here, they helped me get that opportunity. I worked there for a few years and then left and went to the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, came back home in San Francisco and worked here for 6.5 years. And that was an incredible experience for me because I was able to work with a lot of the departments in the city and do work for the community and with the community on the employment side. But I had always wanted to be in-house, always wanted to be in a company where the idea of doing something with the community to do better, not just litigate, not just fighting the fight after people have gone through, the managers didn't do what they should be doing. So I wanted to find a path back to in-house. I worked back at another law firm here in San Francisco, Morgan Lewis, and there I was given the opportunity to do a secondment at Gap. One thing for the students here, if you have a chance to ever do a secondment, which is really you lent to a company by a firm to work there for a few months, take advantage of it. Especially if you want to be in-house, that's a great way for you to get that experience. And then that's how, for me, I was able to get a job at Electronic Arts, EA Sports. So if any of you are gamers, my first real in-house job was at EA. And that was based on that experience I had with Gap. And I worked there for a few years, and then I got my dream job at Pandora. Pandora is about 7 minutes away from my house in Oakland. I live in Oakland. I work in Oakland. I had a 3-hour commute to Redwood City before I got the job. And when they were hiring for their first employment attorney, I called my mom and said, this is my job to lose, and this is an opportunity you can't pass up. And it's been an incredible journey for me at Pandora. I've been there for 4 years as their employment lawyer. Last year, I decided that I was going to take on the role of diversity and inclusion lead for the company. And one of the pieces for this speaker series that is sort of in between the diversity and inclusion is about equity. Something that when you are in my role, there's a debate, right? Some folks say, well, shouldn't we just treat people equally? Like, why do you need to do something extra? Like, yeah, it's diversity, you bring them in and, you try to retain them, but the rest is really like, you don't need to do anything extra for the Blacks or for the Hispanics. You don't need to do anything extra for women, right? Just you give them the tools, the access to everything, and they should be able to do it. What I would challenge you in a lot of the companies, especially in tech, yes, treating people equally is very important. The employment lawyer and me, that's what you trained to do. You make sure that people treat folks equally. But don't forget equity. If you recall back to my own experience coming here to Hastings, where they admitted me, Hastings could have said, you have access to the professors, you have the same classes, you can do fine. But LEOP was sort of my source to equity. The professors say, I want to make sure that you have some tools. We remove the barriers for you so that you can succeed. One of the ways LEOP did that was practice exams for the bar exam. Every Saturday, I would take them, they would give me feedback, they would make sure that I understood what I was doing right, where I could improve on. I would go to the office hours of the professors and ask for help, right? That's equity. That's removing a barrier for the students so that when they leave the school, they take the bar once. They can pass it. In my company, what I try to do, and with diversity and inclusion and equity work, is to say if you have a team member who may have challenges, again, all of us have different disadvantages that we come with. How do you make sure you remove the barriers? What opportunities do you provide women so that they rise up the ladder in the company? If you have people who are disabled, how do you remove those barriers so that they can thrive within the company? That's really what the equity piece is about. One of my favorite illustrations, and I know there's debate around this, people, there's a lot, you can read a lot of the literature about this from the origin of it, but I find it really resonates with me because it's about, trying to have access. And this shows you on the right with equity, being able to see across in the field. What does it take to be able to allow the person on the right to see? Adding that extra step. That's providing a little something. Yes.
Oh, how I noted this was the boxes represent resources,
Mm-hmm.
and the person on the right needed a bit more than that, and the person on the left just because that's just what you got.
Yes, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, and within companies, you put it in context, right? It's about what are the resources that you're providing to people of color to make sure that they are developing, they are leaders in the company, they have opportunities to, whether it's projects or teams, access to executives, right? Those are the ways that you do that. I went through a program at Pandora, which is the Management Leadership for Tomorrow's career advancement program, where part of that is you are given an executive coach. And that coach helps you talk through how do you show up? How do you invite yourself to get a seat at the table? How do you speak up and advocate for yourself, right? How do you make sure you find out where are my gaps? How do I get opportunities? So exactly those boxes show the resources that you're giving to folks who may not have them to succeed. Not that they are less than. Don't be mistaken. Sometimes people think this illustration shows, well, somebody's less than. It's not a less than, is that we all have challenges and obstacles that are in our way. In order to succeed, what can you do as a leader? What can you do as a professor, as a staff here to make sure that the students and people who are in the community are succeeding? So I want to now shift gears a little bit. I want to make sure I leave time for Q&A. I'm doing okay? Okay. Before I talk about what we're doing at Pandora specifically, I want to share a few stats with you on the legal landscape. And I tried to update this as recently as I could for purposes of this, but there's lots of research out there and you can cut this data in multiple ways. But just a snapshot of sort of diversity in the legal profession. We have attorneys of color in law firms, about 16%. And this was a study just in 2017, there were surveys that were done. 16% law firm associates, partners, and counsel who participate in this survey are people of color. Partners of color, about less than 10%, and that went up just a little bit from 2015 to 2017. Women at law firms, they're just slightly over a third of firm attorneys, but equity partners, it's about 20%. Okay, and equity is where your partner, you actually have an equity stake in the firm, you make more money. I never wanted to be a partner, but that's just me. LGBTQ plus, those who identify, about 2.5% of firm attorneys self-identify that. And there's, a challenge here because at law firms, whereas, my race, it's a little hard to hide it in terms of my color, and I've tried really hard now not, to be very proud that I'm a Haitian American woman. So it's hard to hide that, but sometimes with folks, the environment is not inviting enough for folks who would be able to identify as LGBTQ+. And when you add people with disabilities, whether it's mental disabilities, some physical disabilities that you may not be able to see, it's even more challenging because people don't want that to be the reason why they don't have assignment to a case, they don't become partners, or they don't advance in the community. So our jobs are to make sure we remove those barriers, eliminate the biases that exist within the companies and the firms to ensure that people can be who they are. I wanted to share this. I don't know if you're able to see this slide, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of the trend from 2007 to 2016 of what I would call progress in the legal profession in terms of lawyers who are at firms, associate partners, and counsel. And you see that there's not a whole lot of progress with Asian Americans slightly above others, with African Americans lower, about 3.1% in 2016. So why do I show you this? Is because you are here, whether you're 1L, 2L, you are interviewing for jobs, whether at firms, organizations, that you may walk through the doors of these firms, you will not find people who look like you. What I would encourage you to do, don't let that stop you from trying to dream. Find people in the community. I am here, I have some cards here that I will offer to every one of you. If you're a student, I'm on LinkedIn, find me. The Hastings community knows how to find me. So ask people for help. Ask them to help get you in touch with others. Just because somebody in your firm does not look like you does not mean you can't succeed. And also mentors can come in different shapes, sizes, colors. So if you don't have a partner who is African American or partner who is a woman in your group, find a partner in a different group. Find a partner who may be white and ask the person, what was your journey? What was your path to partnership? How did you do it? Here are my challenges. Here are the things I'm struggling with. What can I do to be better, to improve? So take advantage of that, but leverage those people like me who've gone through the various, firms, government, in-house to help you figure out some of the paths and mentoring. This also shows you in terms of partners, and it's kind of the same trend here with the numbers are even lower. With African American, you'll see about 2% and not a whole lot of progress in the last almost 10 years. And that's something that needs to, hopefully, we need to change that with the next generation. So what are we doing at Pandora? Because you probably want to know, like, well, why is she here and why is she global head of diversity of Pandora and SiriusXM? A few things that we're doing. One, we have a dedicated diversity and inclusion team that I lead. And our job really is to make sure that, not just the legal department, but the entire company is reflective of the community. We have set out some public goals that we published externally. And one of our goals for 2020 is to have our company go from 35% people of color to 45% people of color in our major cities. And one of them is Oakland. Obviously, that's where we're headquartered. And so that is a primary goal for me. The other one is around leadership development, making sure that people of color and women are not just coming in at the lower level of the organization, but they are rising as leaders. Because those senior leaders, if people look like you and you come in the organization, you see those who are leading look like you and they are women, they are people of color, you are more likely to stay. So we're trying to focus on that as well. We have employee resource groups, and those are, we have one that's called Mixtape, and it's for employees of color. So again, Pandora, the theme, Mixtape. And we have one that's Pandora Women, and we have Pride, our Pride community. Pandora and SiriusXM just merged last month. SiriusXM, which is headquartered in New York, also has affinity groups. They have one for African American employees. They have one for LGBTQ identified employees. They also have one for women. And so my job right now is to figure out how do we merge the two, because now we are one company. So that is a priority for us. On the legal team, we have a fellowship program. And that fellowship program, we invite students before they go to law school who are interested in law school to come in and spend some time with Pandora on the legal team working with us. We had some folks who were there for 2 years, one of whom right now is ending her program. She's applied to so many schools, got into multiple ones of them, and she's incredible. We give her an opportunity to see what it's like to work at a company in a legal department and gain the confidence to say, you know what, I want to go to law school, I want to become a lawyer. So that's one way we're trying to create and build a pipeline of incredibly diverse lawyers for the community. Another thing that we do is every month the legal team has what's called a diversity and inclusion dialogue series, where we are able to talk as a team about issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it is intended to be in the department when you are a person of color, or you are a woman. What are the challenges that you may face, whether it's getting feedback, whether it's having access to opportunities, whether it's being able to say, I feel like I don't know what the next level is for me, how do I get there? So we're trying to have those conversations to make sure people feel that it's a safe space. And we also have an advisory board for one of our engineering programming, and I know obviously this is not an engineering school, but I know when I was here, there were some folks who were engineers who went to law school. So it's something that, again, the department is working with the business to make sure that we are creating pipelines of diverse folks to come within the company. I'm happy to say in the legal department, we have a little breakdown. I got this data as of yesterday. We have about 70% women in our legal department and 43% people of color. And, we're not saying that we are the only company that have found a way to do that, But some of the things we're doing in the legal department, like the fellowship and the D&I dialogues, and being intentional about recruiting people of color and women into the organization is making an impact and moving the needles and making sure that we are able to get people who are diverse. So before I open it up for questions, I just have a few quick takeaways. If you are a student, believe in yourself. I sure did. I didn't know that I would actually make it at the end of law school and have a job. I didn't know that I would be here today when I stepped on the airplane to come to the United States. But I did believe that I would find a way to get somewhere. And that somewhere required me to kind of partner with people and have folks who believed in me. But first it meant I had to believe that I could do it and I could put in the work. So believe in yourself. Let others help you. Lean on others. I will repeat this. One ask I would have for any student here, I would encourage you, every one of you in the next week, reach out to me. Find somebody on LinkedIn who's a lawyer, who may be at a company, you're like, I just want to invite you to coffee to see, will you talk to me about your path? How did you get to where you are? Let people help you. Take advantage of every opportunity given to you, especially here at Hastings. There are many, many. And don't go through law school thinking I'm just going to study and do well and get good grades and the rest will be fine. Believe it or not, the practical experiences you learn here outside of the classrooms will be invaluable in life when you graduate. For practitioners, reach back and give back through mentoring, recruiting, and hiring Hastings students. If your company is hiring, make sure the school here has that information. Try to reach out to students and have coffee with them, talk to them, help them figure out like a way that they can find a path. In fact, volunteer for moot court and anything that's being done here. So please do that to give back. Continue to support the school in any way that you can. Some maybe financially, some maybe volunteering, some maybe just bouncing off ideas of the staff here or student. Find a way to give back. Be a guest speaker at a classroom. I know if the school invites you to do that, take advantage. I'll actually be here on Monday to speak in the discrimination classroom to talk about my experience as a lawyer, an employment lawyer. So it's an hour of your time or two, but it will pay huge dividends if you do that. With that, I want to say thank you again for having me here. I am open to taking any questions that you may have now, and I'm going to step out here. Thank you.
Students to use the mics.
Okay, so if you have a question, if you could please walk up to one of the two mics. There's one on the right side of the room, one on the left. Don't be shy. Any question? Don't tell me you have no questions. There we go.
Hello, thank you very much for amazing speech. I'm LLM student from Japan, so I understand how difficult to jump into the classroom, which is not your native language. And my question is that in Japan, the percentage of female attorney is only 18%. So it's so hard to have diversity for of course in-house lawyers and also generally law firm as well.
Right.
The percentage of male lawyers is much more because of this percentage. And so the problem is that there's not so many diverse students who want to go to law school or study law. So from your perspective, do you have any advice for us as a student or a future attorney to change the situation to encourage the young people to have interest to law?
No, I absolutely. So welcome, first of all. Really, really great, and I'm glad you asked the question. I think as students, what you can do is help encourage the students who may not want to step into that, because I think one of the fears, they think, well, I'm not going to have a job that really will be meaningful, or if I have a job, there's not going to be a lot of people who look like me. But if we take that mindset, unfortunately, the numbers, the data you saw earlier is going to trend downward. So I think just letting them know that each of us can do something to help move the needle. And it may seem like it's a really huge uphill battle, but having one person of color in a legal department can make an impact. You know why? Because as a person of color in a legal department, I hire law firms to do the work for me, right? You can make sure the law firms that you're hiring are diverse. You may have opportunities to hire attorneys to report into your team. So how do you make a difference? By recruiting people who are diverse. So you can start to move the needle. So I would encourage you to, again, go back and share your experiences about what it's like. And I hope that it has been a great experience for you here at Hastings.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
I just want to say greetings.
Hello.
You remember me? I was the secretary.
Yes. I was smiling at you over there. I don't know if you could tell.
So truly honor to see you here, especially I'm from El Salvador. I came when I was 15. And so this moment is very special.
Oh.
I've been at Hastings for 25 years. Not only that, I coordinated the LEA program for 12 years. So I just want to honor you.
Thank you.
And
Can I give you a hug? Is that okay?
That's what I
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Thank you. Okay, now ask the question so I don't cry, too.
How do you deal with your kids that are as a future parents? I have 3 kids here, and it's been a struggle when I was in LEAP, I will come, which I say, hey, there's a lot of people that need to struggle, and they're doing this. But as a mother, we always protect, and we say, we're gonna do the best for you. Mm-hmm. But at the end, when they become adults, it's not a good thing. Correct. So what I learned, how you fall down is the best experience. We have gone through our waves, yes, and that's why we're here. But how do you encourage them or to take the blindfolds, to let them know, look at me. Yeah. Look what I've gone through, and you still don't listen to me. And so a lot of things for you guys, adults, parents have been telling you, but it doesn't until somebody else comes.
And that's a really, really great question. So my oldest child is 16. She's a junior now in high school. Incredibly smart, brilliant. She dances ballet. She performs and plays and musicals. She's in fact performing a couple of weeks in Mamma Mia. Bright kid. I have 2 boys who are 12, turning 13 in a week, and 11. What I try to tell my kids, they are going to fail. Because for me, I think one of the things that hold us back is the fear of failure. Mm-hmm. I truly believe if you let that cripple you, you'll never take risks. So I said, you go ahead and try. Mm-hmm. It may work, it may not work, you may succeed, you may fail, but you'll never know unless you try. I also try to tell my kids about my story, and I tell them, you're privileged. You have me who has a really great job. I've been blessed to have an education here. My husband, who's an engineer, he works at Apple. But Daddy and I had to work hard. And so don't take that, what you have here, to say, oh, this is life. Mm-hmm. So I share my own story so they can see that. And I can see in their eyes when they are facing a little bit of a challenge, especially my daughter. She's like, oh, I don't know if I'll get the role in Mamma Mia, or I don't know if she applied to Harvard last year for a program. She's like, Harvard may not accept me. I said, you never know. Mm-hmm. You won't know until you try. And she did. So I just share with them my own journey and be very real about it, because if you try to hide it from your kids and they're like, well, you've made it and it's easy for you. But no, it's not easy for me. It was not easy for me. So I think just sharing your journey with them helps.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Truly
you're welcome.
Honored.
I'm very blessed. Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Hi, I'm a Hastings alum, class of 2015.
Hi.
Hi, and I currently work in policy, but I'm interested in moving into D&I and recruitment and retention.
Awesome.
So do you have any advice for someone that wants to pivot in terms of career options?
Yes, I think a couple of things you could do. And first of all, I think that's great. We need more people like you, especially with a policy background, because having that lens to come into recruiting and diversity will be very helpful. I don't know, there are conferences you can attend, and I'm happy to afterwards talk to you about some of them where you can attend and just really have that thought leadership and partnership and understanding the landscape. Depending on where you want to be. Right now, the tech industry, that's a huge thing. And in the Bay Area, given all the companies you have here, huge opportunities. But I love that you're partnering the recruiting and diversity part, because that pipeline, building the pipeline is the key. And so I think finding ways you can connect with people or recruiters, and I'm happy to connect you with some of them. One of my dearest, wonderful colleague, Rita Gordon, who actually is a recruiter, but has incredible experience in diversity and inclusion and really trying to do more to make an impact. She would be a great person. I'd love to connect you with her.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Good
Hi.
afternoon. It's Elizabeth here, LEAP Director. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
One of my questions is, what are some of the most recurrent reasons you hear for why we cannot increase diversity in the legal profession, particularly whether it's in law firms or in-house or even in higher education? And what are the most common solutions and the most creative solutions that either you've implemented or are aware of other people implementing?
What an awesome question. It's really, really great. I think what I hear in terms of the reason why the pipeline issue is, I think it's an excuse, just to be quite honest, that they don't have enough of people of color, of women, people who are ready to be, take firms, for example, right? They may say there's not enough of them ready to take on the associate work at a law firm. And then when you extend that to in-house, the excuse is, well, there's not enough women or people of color ready to take on the role, whether it's a litigator, whether it's a transactional lawyer, employment lawyer, you name it. That's an excuse. But I do think some of the solutions, because that's what I'd like to focus on, the creative solutions. Secondment, I already mentioned. It's not unique, it's not new, but I think companies don't realize the value of doing secondment, because think of it, when you're an associate at a firm, you're trying to go in-house, try sending your resumes to a legal department or recruiter, it goes into a black hole. And the secret is, and I tell people it's not really a secret, getting your job in-house is who you know. Believe it or not, it's through networking. It's through referrals. And if you don't know people in that company, you send your resume, nobody's gonna look at it, right? So, but if you've had a secondment, you've shown your ability to actually do some of the work and be an in-house department. Every lawyer I know in-house has some connection. And even if they can't hire you in that job, like for me at Gap, I wasn't able to get hired, but I had connections they were able to connect me with. So that's one solution. The other is, I know some firms and companies are doing that. I'm excited to see that. We don't have a lot of roles at Pandora, but with the broader company, I'd like to explore it. Some firms are having their associates, summer associates, spend half the time at the firm and half the time at the companies. I think more companies should do that. It's a great way to get in-house legal departments to get to see and get to know attorneys of color, particularly, to be able to say, you know what, when this person graduates, I would like the person to come in and have a job here. The other thing, though, I think a lot of the schools and the law firms, there is this snobbiness, if you will. Some of the firms, they go to certain schools, they don't go to a lot. I mean, again, I don't think it's luck that I was able to get a great job after law school. I think the Hastings community just worked really hard to make sure that we did get people coming on campus and do that. But the landscape right now is a lot harder. So finding more connections with firms and companies really alumni, again, going back to that call to action, will make sure that our students here have access to the people in the broader community. And I've already mentioned that I am absolutely here to help. It's unfortunate that I've been as active here. Part of it is just having children and changing and moving. Life happens. But I will give myself to be able to help connect folks here to others.
And we will be taking you up on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you actually made a point, which I thought was so funny about like the splitting. So I actually am going to be doing that this summer.
Nice.
And I went to speak with somebody at Dropbox, and he said, "Oh, that's such a great idea. Like, I think we should do something like that." But we don't think that you guys would have the training though, so you still have to go to a firm and then come back like a few years later, like after you've been trained. And I've heard that multiple times from different employers. So while I think it's such a great idea that we get to like go in-house, go to a firm, it's so wonderful. But then you get to go in-house and you think, oh, I'm gonna work so hard so I can get a job right, like after I graduate. But a lot of companies still have this like old mindset of there's this training that you need to get at law firms that you just can't get at a company.
Right.
But I don't really, how do you combat that one? Because if you're putting in all this effort while you're there to get noticed, how do you combat like that whole notion of I need to still go to a law firm in order to get the training? And do you think that they are right? Like you should go to a law firm first, get the training, and then go to a company? Because one thing he did mention is that there aren't enough attorneys, like at his company, especially. Like it's not like Amazon with a full-size law department.
So the short answer is I don't agree that you have to go to a law firm to get the experience. So because that's the piece, that emphasis on a law firm. You can get lots of incredible practical attorney experience in other places, whether it's, public interest places or doing things that are not a firm, or you don't have to go to a big firm. But I do think, again, I'm all about not just bringing people through the door and not give them the tools and making sure that they can succeed.
Yeah.
At an in-house company, you won't have the luxury of training. I can tell you, if you're an employment lawyer, first employment lawyer at a company, you have to be ready to give advice. You have to be able to know, where can this end up if I give this piece of advice in litigation? Where could it not? How do you make sure your HR business partners navigate through that? The law firm gives you that skill in terms of being able to, do litigation, being able to see how what the business did translates into your strategy for litigation. So that experience you won't get in-house. So I think his point is, and a lot of companies don't have the ability to train students or new graduates. I would not want you to go to a company where, first year out of law school, you're an in-house employment lawyer, because you would, again, it's not about being smart. It's not about being able to I can grasp this. There are things in terms of experiences that you would need to be able to be effective at what you do. You don't have to be at a firm, but you can get the experience in other ways. One thing you could do is bigger companies have bigger departments, legal departments. So if you're one of 12 lawyers, absolutely, because they'll be able to kind of train you and help mentor you. But if you're the first employment lawyer at a company out of law school, I would say that's a really, really big hurdle for you. So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Are we at time? Oh, there's one more. Do I have time for one more? Is this? Yes, one more question. Go for it.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So I'm a 1L, and I'm really struggling with the job search. I'm really struggling with classes, and naturally, one starts questioning one's self-worth and whether or not this is something that you should be doing. What is some advice that you can give to people who are struggling to sort of kind of lift yourself up? Because sometimes that needs to come from you and not from someone else.
And you're not, it's common. I think 1L, 2Ls, especially if the job search is really challenging. I would say, first of all, do some self-care. I give that advice. I don't always do it, but when I was here at Hastings, I did practice that. Believe it or not, I lived off campus. I was married at that time. And on Sundays, my husband and I would go walking around the park. and we would do a picnic. I would come and study, but I just needed to be outside. So do some of that. Whatever helps you get out of your own head, do that. 2, I would say network. It is very challenging for us, especially of people of color, to network. I cannot tell you how important it is to network. You don't have to go out to conferences or do things, but the San Francisco Bar Association or some firms are having events. Again, companies have events. Say, can I come over to Pandora and spend a day and talk to folks and see what they do? Like, you will learn about different jobs, different roles, different things that you can do, because sometimes it's not all litigation, it's not all corporate, right? And folks also know people in different companies. Network, network, network. And then the final thing is, find what it is that you really want to do. 1L, some folks say, I have to work at a top firm, but is that really what you really want to do? Is there something you want to do that you could do at a smaller tier firm? And I'm happy to talk to you about your search and where you're looking and kind of help, if it will be helpful, guide you through that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, everyone.